You know, it's funny. You spend a third of your life in an office building, and you think you know it. You know the rattle the air conditioner makes in the summer. You know which stall in the men's room has the broken lock. You know that Dave, the night guard, always props the lobby door open at 6 p.m. sharp for the cleaning crew. It's familiar. It's safe. It's just a building. At least, that's what I thought. My name is Mark. I was a data analyst for a financial tech firm in the Orion Tower. It's one of those new smart buildings. All glass and steel, gleaming and sterile. The kind of place that looks impressive from the outside, but feels like a high-tech hospital ward on the inside. Our offices were on the 10th floor. This all happened about 6 months ago, on a Thursday night in October. The sky had been that. Weird, bruised purple color all afternoon, and by 7 p.m., the city was getting hammered by the worst thunderstorm I'd seen in years. The kind of storm where the rain doesn't just fall, it attacks in horizontal sheets, and the thunder isn't a rumble, it's a crack that shakes the windows in their frames. I'm what you'd call diligent. My wife calls it workaholism. I just call it not wanting to get fired. We had a huge quarterly review the next day, and my part of the presentation was still a mess. So I stayed late. Big surprise. By 9 p.m., I was the only one left on our floor. The entire massive open-plan office was dark, except for the glow of my monitors and the red exit signs. The silence of the place was amplified by the roar of the storm outside. Every time the lightning flashed, the whole office lit up in a stark, flickering blue-white, casting long, spooky shadows from all the empty desks. It was unsettling. I'm not a nervous guy, but even I was starting to get jumpy. Finally, at 9:15, I hit save on the presentation, leaned back and rubbed my eyes. The building groaned. The wind howled. Okay, time to go. Packed my laptop bag, threw on my raincoat, and walked out into the hallway. The Orion Tower has a central bank of 6 elevators. Smart elevators, of course. You punch in your floor on a digital kiosk, and it tells you which car to take. I jabbed the P4 button for the parking garage. The screen flickered the storm. Was probably messing with the power, and then it read, "Please take elevator C." Elevator C dinged and the door slid open. I stepped inside. The car was cold, mirrored on 3 sides, making me feel like I was being watched from every angle. I just wanted to get to my car and drive home. The doors started to slide shut, and that's when a hand shot through the gap. I jumped back, my heart kicking my ribs. The doors slid back open. A man was standing there, breathless. He was wearing the uniform of our building security, but I'd never seen him before. We had 2 regular night guys. Dave, the older guy I mentioned, who looked like a friendly grandpa, and Ben, a younger guy who was always buried in a textbook. This guy was different. He was maybe 40, with a military-style buzz cut and a face that was all sharp angles. He was pale, sweating despite the cold, and his uniform was dark with rain, as if he'd just run a marathon outside. His name tag read Harris. He stumbled into the elevator, his eyes wide and darting. He didn't look at me. He immediately turned to the control panel. "Rough night," I said, trying to make small talk. He ignored me. He was fumbling with a key card, his hands shaking so badly he could barely get it into the slot. He swiped it. An angry beep. He swiped it again. Another beep. "Come on, you piece of junk," he hissed at the panel. "Is everything okay?" I asked. He shot me a look, and it wasn't friendly. Storms frying the electronics. He swiped the card a 3rd time. This time, it beeped and the panel lit up. He didn't have a floor button to press, just an emergency override. He turned the key, then he started hitting buttons. He hit L for lobby, then P1, P2, P3, and P4. All of them. The buttons lit up, one after another. Why'd you hit all the floors? I asked. System-wide malfunction, he said, his voice clipped and fast. Just trying to get one of them to register. We need to get out. The doors slid shut. The elevator gave a low whir, and we started to descend. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. 10 floors to the garage. 5 minutes, tops. We passed 9. We passed 8. And then, between 8 and 7, the elevator lurched. It was a violent, stomach-dropping jolt, like a roller coaster car slamming on its brakes. I stumbled forward, catching myself on the handrail. The main lights in the car snapped off, plunging us into almost total darkness. A second later, the dim, red emergency light clicked on, painting the mirrored walls and us in a sickly, hellish glow. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," I muttered. I pulled out my phone. No signal, not a single bar. The Orion Tower was famous for being a black hole below the 5th floor. The guard, Harris, was breathing heavily. No, 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 no. He started hammering the door open button. Nothing. He hammered the emergency call button. Nothing. The speaker next to it just hissed with static. "Great," I said, sliding down to sit on the floor. "Just great. We're trapped. I guess we just wait." "We can't wait," Harris said. His voice was different now. It was high-pitched, laced with a new, raw panic. "Dude, relax," I said. "It's the storm. The power's probably just fluctuating. Someone will find us. You don't understand." He snapped, turning on me. His eyes were wide in the red light. "It's not the storm." A cold dread, colder than the air in the car, started to creep up my spine. What do you mean?" He was pacing now, the full 2 steps the elevator allowed. "It's a code silver. An active shooter." My blood went cold. "What? Where?" "The 10th floor," he said, not looking at me. "Right where we just came from. I got the alert on my radio just before I saw you." He was spotted on the CCTV in the server room. The building initiated an automatic lockdown. He must have cut the power. I was speechless. A shooter on my floor. "Oh my God," I whispered, thinking about how I was just there, alone. Was it just one? "I think so," Harris said. He was trying to pry the doors open with his bare fingers, his knuckles white. But they said he's a tech. He knows the building's systems. He probably locked the elevators. He probably knows we're in here. He's locked us in." That's when the real terror hit me. We weren't just trapped by a malfunction. We were trapped by a person. A person with a gun who knew exactly where we were. We were sitting ducks in a tiny metal box. I started banging on the door. "Help! Hey, we're in here." "Shut up," Harris hissed, grabbing my arm. His grip was like steel. "You want him to hear you? You want him to know we're here? Our only chance is to stay quiet." I snatched my arm back, breathing hard. He was right. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I pulled my phone out again. I started typing a text to my wife. "I love you. I'm trapped in an elevator at work. There's a shooter. Please, I love you." I kept hitting send, 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 praying one of them would get through. Failed, failed, failed. We sat there in the suffocating red darkness. The only sounds were the drip, drip, drip of water from Harris's rain-soaked uniform, and the distant, muffled roar of the storm. It felt like hours. It was probably 15 minutes. Harris was talking, more to himself than to me. "They'll get him. They'll get him. The protocol is to sweep floor by floor. They'll find him. Then they'll reset the system. They'll get us out. We just have to wait." He was trying to calm me down, or maybe himself, but his calmness was off. It was jittery, like a caffeine addict trying to sit still. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice suddenly conversational. "Mark." "Okay, Mark, it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna get you out of here. I promise." I just nodded, unable to speak. I was picturing a man with a gun, walking the dark halls of the 10th floor. Was he looking for us? Could he shoot through the elevator doors? My mind was spiraling, and then my phone buzzed. It was so loud in the silence, it made us both jump. I looked at the screen. One bar. One beautiful flickering bar of 1X signal. And then a notification pushed through. A building-wide emergency alert. My hands were shaking so hard, I could barely read it. Emergency alert. All clear. The suspect, Kay Jennings, has been apprehended in the 10th floor server room. Please evacuate via the nearest stairwell. ALL clear. I could have wept. I've never felt relief like that in my life. It was a physical wave that made my knees weak. "Oh my God," I laughed, a hysterical, shaky laugh. "Oh my God, Harris, look, they got him. They got the guy. His name's Kevin Jennings. They caught him." I held the phone up for him to see in the dim light. Harris didn't move. He didn't cheer. He didn't sigh in relief. He just stared at the screen. His face, in that red glow, went from pale panic to a dark, cold fury. "Damn it, Kevin," he whispered, so low I barely heard him. My relief vanished. "What?" "You idiot," Harris said, clenching his fists. "You weren't supposed to get caught." My stomach dropped into my feet. I don't understand. What did you say?" Harris turned to face me. The man I'd been trapped with, the panicked guard, was gone. This person was cold, in control, and his eyes were filled with a terrifying, flat anger. He reached to his belt, and it wasn't for his radio. He unholstered his sidearm. The click of the safety coming off was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. "I said," he hissed, "he wasn't supposed to get caught." I scrambled backwards, flat against the mirrored wall. What are you doing?" "The die's caught. We're safe." "No, Mark, you're not." He raised the gun, his hand perfectly steady. There was no active shooter. I mean, not really. That was just a distraction. A distraction? My mind was fumbling, trying to piece it together. Kevin Jennings. The guy on the news alert? "My partner," Harris said. "He's the tech guy. I'm the security guy." We were hitting the server room. A few terabytes of proprietary data, worth about, 8 figures to the right competitor. The plan was simple. He started to lay it out, his voice calm, like I was a new hire, and he was explaining the fire drill. Kevin triggers the code silver alert remotely from the server room. He locks down the building, fakes a few gunshot reports over the security system. It causes panic, gets the cops here, but it also gives him cover. And it gives me control. I'm the guard on the scene. While everyone else is evacuating or hiding, I use my master keycard to lock this specific elevator. I ride it down to P4, where our ride is waiting. Kevin wipes the logs, meets me there 10 minutes later, and we're ghosts. Gone. He gestured at me with the gun. "But you, Mark, you just had to finish your stupid report. You just had to be in this elevator. You weren't part of the plan." My heart, which had just started to slow down, was now trying to escape my chest. The power," Kevin cut it, "to this car, to keep us stuck. He was supposed to bring it back online in 5 minutes. But the idiot must have tripped a hard circuit. Probably what got him caught. And now," he shook his head, "the whole plan is shot to hell. And I can't leave a witness." "Please," I begged, my hands up. "Please, I won't say anything. I swear, I didn't see anything. I have a family. A wife, a little girl. I'm sure you do, Harris said. His voice was completely devoid of emotion. That's rough, but it's just business. And then, as if on cue, the elevator groaned. The main lights flickered, buzzed, and snapped on, blindingly bright after the red gloom. The control panel lit up like a Christmas tree, and the car gave a lurch and started to descend. I looked at the panel. The light for P4 was illuminated. Kevin must have triggered the sequence before he was caught. Or maybe the system was just rebooting. The elevator slid smoothly down. P1, P2, P3. Perfect, Harris said, a small, cruel smile on his face. Saves me the trouble of moving you. My mind was screaming. Run, fight, do something. But I was frozen. He had the gun. I was trapped. The elevator bell chimed. The doors slid open. We were on P4, the parking garage. It was dark, empty. The only sound was the thump-thump of the storm drains overflowing. My car, my little blue Honda, was parked just 30 feet away. So close. Get out, Harris said, gesturing with the gun. I stood up, my legs feeling like they were made of wet cement. I put my hands in the air. Please, I whispered again. Harris, please, don't do this. I stepped out onto the cold, damp concrete. The air smelled like rain and gasoline. I'm sorry, Mark, he said. He was still in the elevator, the gun aimed right at my chest. But you really should have left the office at 5, like everyone else. He raised the gun. The last thing I saw was the glint of the fluorescent lights on the polished steel of the elevator doors behind him. In my life, I've had a lot of crappy jobs. I've flipped burgers, I've stocked shelves at 3 a.m. But for 2 years, my main hustle to pay off my student loans was food delivery. You know the drill: DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever. You spend your life in your beat-up 2009 Civic, listening to podcasts and smelling like a mix of pizza and stale fries. Most of it, it's just boring. Annoying customers, no-tip orders, apartments you can't find. But there was one stop on my regular route that was different. It was a place called the Rest Haven Assisted Living Facility. I dreaded getting an order for Rest Haven. It was this grim 1970s concrete tower, all brutalist architecture and sad, weeping willow trees out front. The whole place felt gray, even on a sunny day. And the smell. The second you walked through the automatic doors, it hit you. This overpowering wave of industrial-strength bleach, overcooked cabbage, and, I don't know, sadness. It was the smell of a place where people go to wait. The night nurse, a heavy-set woman named Brenda, was always at the front desk, buried in a crossword puzzle. She never looked up. I'd just sign the logbook and head to the elevators. The elevator. God, the elevator. It wasn't a normal elevator. It was a massive, gurney-sized service elevator. The walls were padded, like in an old-timey asylum, with this grim, beige-colored vinyl that was cracked and peeling in the corners. The light was a single, flickering fluorescent panel that buzzed. A loud, constant, high-pitched sounds. And it was slow. You'd hit the button, the heavy doors would thud shut, and the motor would groan, like it was in pain, as it slowly dragged the car up. It was, without question, the creepiest 60 seconds of my day, every time. This thing started about a year into the gig. It was a Tuesday, 10 p.m. I got a ding on my phone. Order for 904B, Rest Haven. I sighed. grabbed the bag of tacos, and drove over. I signed the log, Brenda grunted, and I went to the elevator. I got in. The padded walls seemed dirtier than usual. I hit the 9 button. The doors thudded shut. The motor groaned. It started going up. L, 2, and then it stopped on 3. The 3 button on the panel wasn't even lit. It just stopped. The doors slid open with a long pneumatic sigh. And there was a woman standing there. She was standing in the middle of the hallway, maybe 10 feet back from the elevator, just staring. She was tiny, bird-like, and wearing one of those thin, pale blue hospital gowns. Her hair was thin and gray, plastered to her head. Her feet were bare on the cold linoleum floor. And she was just staring, not at me. She was staring at the back wall of the elevator, right over my shoulder. I said. I held the door open button. Are you getting in, ma'am? She didn't move. She didn't blink. Her eyes were vacant, milky. Ma'am? Nothing. Okay, this was weird. But Brenda had told me before, honey, they're all confused here. I figured she was just having a moment. I let go of the door open button and hit door close. The doors slid shut, cutting her off. I kind of peeked in the crack as it closed. She hadn't moved, not an inch. I let out a shaky breath. The elevator groaned its way up to 9. I delivered the tacos to Mr. Henderson in 904 BA, sweet old guy who was watching Jeopardy. And I got back in the elevator to go down. I hit L for lobby. The car started to descend. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. It stopped on 3. Oh, come on, I muttered. The doors slid open. She was still there. Exact same spot. Exact same gown. Exact same vacant stare at the back of the elevator. I didn't say anything this time. I just jammed my thumb onto the door close button and held it there until the doors were sealed. My heart was doing a weird little thump-thump in my chest. That was the first time. A few nights later, ding. Order for 712. Rest Haven. I groaned. I went in, signed the log, got in the elevator, hit 7. It stopped on 3. The doors sighed open. There she was. Same spot, same gown. But this time, she wasn't staring at the back wall. She was staring at me. The second the doors opened, her head snapped to look right at me. Her milky eyes locked onto mine. A chill, a literal physical chill, washed over me. We just stared at each other for about 3 solid seconds. Then I mashed the door close button. Nope, I said out loud to the empty, padded box. Nope, nope, nope. I delivered the food. Got back in. It stopped on 3 on the way down. She was still there, staring. I didn't even let the doors open all the way. I just kept hitting door close until it went on its way. This became a thing. It was a guarantee. Like death and taxes. If I got in the Rest Haven elevator, it was stopping on the 3rd floor. And she was going to be there. It was always the same. Sometimes she'd be staring at the wall. Sometimes she'd be staring at me. But she was always there. Always silent. Always in that same flimsy gown with those same bare feet. It got to the point where I was genuinely terrified of it. I tried to ask Brenda about it. Hey, Brenda, I said one night, trying to sound casual. What's the deal with the little old lady on the 3rd floor? The one who just stands by the elevator? Brenda didn't even look up from her Us Weekly. Which one? They're all little, and they're all old. This one, I said. Tiny gray hair, always in a blue gown. Just stares. "Oh, that's just Mrs. Klein," she said, flipping a page. "She's a wanderer. Thinks she's waiting for her husband to pick her up. She's harmless. Just hit the close button and mind your business, honey." Harmless, right. Harmless or not, I couldn't take it anymore. The sight of her, it was too much. It was the way she looked through you. So I started taking the stairs. It sucked. I mean, it really sucked. The stairwell at Rest Haven was awful. It smelled like stale urine and disinfectant. The lights were caged bulbs that were always full of dead moths. And if I had an order for the 9th or 10th floor, I'd be a sweaty, panting mess by the time I got there. My delivery times went to hell. My ratings took a nosedive. But it was better than her. I did this for weeks, maybe 2 full months. I'd walk in, sign the log, and walk right past the elevator to the stairs door. Brenda gave me a weird look the first few times, but then she just went back to her magazines. Then came that night. It was a Friday, raining, cold, one of those miserable, bone-chilling nights where you just want to be home. And I was just tired. I was at the end of a 10-hour shift. My knees hurt. Ding, a double order. Order 1, 502, Rest Haven. Order 2, 904B, Rest Haven. A double. To Rest Haven. On a night like this, I almost cried. I was not walking up 5 flights, then another 4, then all 9 back down. I couldn't do it. Screw it, I said to myself, pulling into the parking lot. It's just a confused old lady. Harmless, Brenda said so. I'm taking the elevator. I walked in. I grabbed the 2 big bags of food. I signed the log. Taking the elevator tonight, big shot? Brenda mumbled. Just tired, I said. I walked to the elevator. I pressed the up button. The doors thudded open. I stepped into the buzzing, padded box. I hit 5. The doors thudded shut. My heart was hammering. I was staring at the 3 on the panel. The car groaned. L2. I held my breath. 4, 5. It didn't stop. It didn't stop on 3. I let out a breath I didn't even know I was holding. A huge, shaky sigh of relief. Oh, thank God, I whispered. Maybe they'd moved her to a different floor. Maybe she was asleep. Maybe she was gone. I actually felt giddy with relief. The doors opened on 5. I dropped off the first order. I got back in. I hit 9. The elevator went straight from 5 to 9. No stop. I dropped off the food with Mr. Henderson. How's it going, champ? He asked. It's looking up, Mr. H, I said, grinning. I got back in the elevator. I hit L for lobby. I was whistling. I was going to be home in 10 minutes. The car started to descend. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Thud. It stopped on 3. My whistling died. My stomach filled with ice. Damn it. I stared at the doors, bracing myself. The doors sighed open. The hallway was empty. She was gone. She was gone. I laughed. A short, nervous bark of a laugh. Finally, I was so relieved, I just stared out into the empty linoleum hallway. I was so focused on the empty space where she used to be. The door started to slide shut, and from the back right corner of the elevator, right behind my head, I heard a sound. A soft, wet cough. It wasn't a dry, ahem cough. It was a gurgling cough. I froze. My blood didn't just run cold. It evaporated. I was too scared to turn around. I could feel a cold spot in the corner. The air was thick. The buzzing of the fluorescent light seemed to get louder and louder and louder. My eyes were glued to the polished stainless steel elevator doors, which were now sliding closed. I was staring at my own reflection, my own wide, terrified eyes. And in the reflection, I could see her. She was in the corner, right behind me, inches away. Her face it wasn't right. It was gray and wet. Her hair was matted to her skull. Her milky eyes they weren't vacant anymore. They were furious. I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. She leaned in. I could smell mud and bleach, and she whispered. Her voice wasn't a voice. It was a sound, like water bubbling through a broken pipe. You always forget me. Her hand, which was gray and wrinkled like she'd been in a bath for days, it clamped down on my shoulder. It was so cold. It felt wet. I screamed. It wasn't a yell. It was a high-pitched animal shriek. I broke free. I slammed myself against the control panel, punching every button. I hit the door open button. Bam! The doors, which had just closed, slid back open. I scrambled out. I fell. I literally fell out onto the hallway floor on the 3rd floor. I crab walked backward, gasping, staring into the elevator. It was empty. The padded, buzzing, beige box was completely empty. I got to my feet. I didn't wait. I sprinted. I sprinted to the stairwell door, threw it open, and I didn't run down those 3 flights. I fell down them, tumbling, catching myself on the handrail. I burst out into the lobby. I was a mess. I was sobbing, hyperventilating. Brenda finally looked up from her desk, her eyes wide. "Whoa, kid," she said, actually standing up. "You look like you've seen a ghost." The woman. I gasped, clutching my chest. The lady on 3. Mrs. Klein. What about her? She was in the elevator. She was in there with me. Brenda's bored look just melted. Her face went pale, chalk white. What did you just say? She was in the elevator. She whispered. She grabbed me. That's not possible, Brenda said, her voice a low, shaky whisper. What do you mean? I yelled. You told me she was harmless. You said she was just confused. She was, Brenda said. She came around the desk. She looked scared, genuinely scared. So where is she? I demanded. What room is she in? I'm reporting this. Brenda just pointed a trembling finger at the elevator bank. She's not in a room, kid. What does that mean? Mrs. Klein, she died 3 weeks ago. I stopped. My brain just stopped. What? She died, Brenda repeated, her voice cracking. Right after you started taking the stairs. She must have wandered out of her room, like always. She was always trying to go home. She'd go to the 3rd floor and wait by the elevator. Said she was waiting for her husband. But how did she? Brenda was starting to cry. They were doing maintenance on the elevator, the one you're always using. They had the doors. They had him open on 3, but the The car was at the top. She must have wandered right into the open shaft. In the dark, my stomach heaved. I felt the bile rise in my throat. They didn't find her for a day, Brenda whispered. They found her at the bottom. The car, it had come down on top of her. I looked at my shoulder, the shoulder she had grabbed. My shirt was DAMP. She wasn't waiting for the elevator on 3, Brenda sobbed. She was stuck there. And now, the ding of the elevator arriving in the lobby echoed in the silence. The doors slid open. It was empty. I turned and ran. I ran out the automatic doors, into the rain. I didn't even care about my car. I just ran. I quit that night. I never delivered food again. I still, sometimes, when I'm in an elevator, I hear it, that soft, wet, gurgling cough from the corner right behind me. You've got to understand, I'm not from New York. I'm from Ohio. I grew up in a place where the oldest building on the block was a 1980s split level. So when I moved to the city for art school, I wanted character. I wanted the New York I'd seen in movies. I wanted brick walls and hardwood floors that groaned. I wanted history. Well, be careful what you wish for, right? I found a place on the Upper West Side, a studio apartment in a pre-war building called the Alistair. And pre-war was right. This place looked like it was built before the First World War. The lobby was all dark mahogany and marble that had yellowed and cracked over the last century. The light fixtures were gilded gas lamps that had been converted, badly, to electricity, so they always flickered. The whole place had a smell. It wasn't a bad smell, exactly. It was old, like dust and lemon oil furniture polish and something else, something metallic like old pennies. But the centerpiece of the Alistair, the thing that sold me on it, was the elevator. It was one of those ancient cage-style elevators, a beautiful, terrifying box of ornate, wrought iron latticework with a collapsible gate you had to pull shut by hand. And it wasn't automatic. It was one of the last buildings in the city that still employed a full-time elevator attendant. His name was Mr. Abernathy. The superintendent, a gruff guy named Griggs, introduced us on my move-in day. Abernathy was a fossil. He had to be at least 80, maybe 90. He was skeletal, just bones draped in a dusty maroon uniform that was a little too big for him. His skin was like parchment paper, stretched thin over his skull, and his eyes were milky with cataracts. He never, ever spoke. When I said, "Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm moving into 8B," he just stared. He didn't nod. He just stared, his head tilted slightly, and then, with a creak of his own joints, he reached out and pulled the heavy brass lever to operate the car. The ride up was an experience. There was no push a button. It was all him. He pulled a lever, and with a low whir from some unseen motor and of the counterweights, the car would slowly begin to rise. You could see every floor pass by through the cage. The exposed brick of the shaft, the bundles of old wiring, the doors to other people's apartments. It was exactly the character I'd wanted. For about a week. Then it just got creepy. Living at the Alistair meant you couldn't go anywhere without him. Going out for coffee? You had to ring the bell and wait for Abernathy to slowly bring the car down. Coming home late? You had to use the intercom and wake him up. He apparently slept on a cot in a closet off the lobby. Every single entry, every exit, was controlled by this silent, skeletal old man who smelled like mothballs and that same faint, coppery scent. The first weird thing I noticed was the buttons. Inside the car, on the brass control panel next to Abernathy's lever, was the row of round mother-of-pearl buttons. L, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and P number 13, of course. Standard building superstition. I didn't think anything of it, but number 14 either. The buttons stopped at 12, and P for penthouse. I was riding down with a neighbor one afternoon, a finance bro type from the 11th floor. I tried to make small talk. So, is the penthouse like the 13th and 14th floor? He shrugged. No idea. I just know 12 is the top residential floor. Then there's the penthouse. Above that, just the roof, I guess. It was a stupid, trivial detail, but it lodged in my brain. Why P and not 14? Or if the penthouse was 13, why not have a 14 button for the roof or something? A few days later, I was in the basement laundry room. The superintendent Griggs was down there, wrenching on a big leaking pipe. "Hey, Mr. Griggs," I said, loading my clothes. "Quick, dumb question for you." I was looking at the elevator panel. He grunted, not looking up. "What about it? Why is there no 14th floor button? Is the penthouse the 13th and 14th floor combined?" Griggs stopped. He set his wrench down with a loud clang. He slowly straightened up, wiping his hands on an oily rag. "You been talking to Abernathy?" he asked. His voice was accusatory. "No," I said, taken aback. "He doesn't talk. Ever. I was just curious." Griggs stared at me for a long, uncomfortable moment. "There is no 14th floor, miss. There's 12. Then there's the penthouse, which is the 13th floor. Only Mr. Alistair's great-grandson, who owns it, calls it P, because he's a superstitious fool. Above that is the machinery, the motor room, the top of the shaft. It ain't a floor. It ain't accessible. There's number 14. He picked up his wrench and went back to the pipe, a clear conversation over signal. "Okay, fine. No 14th floor. Weird, but whatever." I let it go. Until the night I came home from a late class. It was after midnight. I rang the intercom, and a few moments later, Abernathy appeared, looking even more corpse-like than usual. He let me in, and we got in the elevator. As the gate was closing, the finance bro from 11, we'll call him Chad, slid in. "Hey," he said, nodding at me, smelling like expensive whiskey. "Abernathy, 11, please." "8 for me," I said. Abernathy, silent as ever, pulled the lever. The car began its slow, groaning ascent. We passed 5, 6, 7. The elevator slowed and stopped at 8. "Night," I said, pulling open the gate. "Night," Chad said, not looking up from his phone. I stepped out and walked toward my apartment, 8B. As I was fumbling for my keys, I heard Chad's voice, muffled, from the elevator. And then 14, Abernathy. "I've got a delivery." I froze. My keys halfway in the lock. 14. I turned around. The elevator gate was still open. I peeked back down the hall. I could see Abernathy's profile. He was nodding. Slowly, Chad said something else I couldn't hear. Abernathy pulled the gate shut. I stood there, hidden in the alcove of my doorway. I listened. I heard the whir of the motor. I heard the of the counterweights. I heard it past 9, past 10. It did not stop at 11. I heard it go. Past 12. I heard it go clank. Past P. And then I heard the motor whirring for another 5, 6, 7 seconds. And then, thud. It stopped. Far, far above me. My blood ran cold. Griggs had lied. There was a 14, and Abernathy, and Chad knew about it. This is where I should have just locked my door, put on Netflix, forgotten about it. But I'm an artist. I'm a curious person, which is just a nice way of saying I'm an idiot who doesn't know when to leave things alone. I became obsessed. My apartment, 8B, was at the back of the building. My window looked out onto a dark, narrow service alley. And from that window, I could see the elevator shaft, which was a brick tower that jutted up above the main roof line of the building. At the very top, under a little metal roof, I could see the big, greasy pulley wheel that lifted the car. I started watching it. I'd sit in my window in the dark and watch the wheel. I'd see it turn. Stop, that's 10. Turn, stop, that's 4. Turn, stop, that's 12. And then, some nights, always late, I'd see it turn and keep turning. Past 12. Past P would turn for those extra 7 seconds and then stop. It was going up top. It happened maybe twice a week. And it was always a different tenant. Once it was Chad. Once it was a woman from the 9th floor who always wore pearls. Once it was a young couple from 7. They'd go up. They'd stay for maybe 10, 15 minutes. And then the wheel would turn again, and they'd come back down. What was up there? A private roof deck? A secret lounge? A drug thing? And then I noticed the smell. That coppery old penny smell. It was always in the elevator car. I just assumed it was the old machinery, the grease, the brass. But I realized it was only strong in the mornings. The mornings after the elevator had gone to 14 the night before. It wasn't just pennies either. It was, I'm a painter. I know the smell of iron oxide. It was iron, like old blood. My curiosity was turning into a sick, creeping dread. I stopped taking the elevator. I started taking the stairs. 8 flights, up and down, every single day. It was exhausting. Abernathy would just watch me from his little stool as I hoofed it past him, his milky eyes following me, his face a complete, expressionless mask. This went on for 2 months. I was getting jumpy. I wasn't sleeping. I was scared. I was scared of the silent old man and his secret floor. Finally, one night, I cracked. It was a cold, rainy November evening. I was coming home, soaked and miserable. I was too tired for the stairs. I couldn't. I got in the elevator. It was just me and Abernathy. The silence in the car was thick. The clank was deafening. He stopped the car, but he didn't stop at 8. He stopped between 7 and 8. The car just dangled in the shaft. The only sound was the rain lashing against the building. I looked at him. He was already looking at me. "You've been avoiding me, Miss Sarah," he whispered. It was the first time I'd ever heard him speak. His voice was awful. It was like dry leaves skittering across pavement. It was a dry, rattling, dead sound. I was paralyzed with fear. I've been taking the stairs for exercise. He smiled, a slow, horrible crack in his parchment paper face, revealing yellow, uneven teeth. "You're curious," he wheezed. "About 14. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. "It's not a floor," he said. "It's just the top. The machinery." "What? What's up there?" I whispered. Why do people go up there? His smile widened. They have an interest in the history of the building. He looked at me. You have an interest in history, don't you? This was it. My chance. My stupid, idiotic curiosity won out over the primal terror that was screaming at me to just scream. Take me there, I said, my voice shaking. I want to see. Mr. Abernathy's milky eyes seemed to clear, just for a second. They focused on me, sharp and intelligent, and hungry. As you wish, miss. He reached out his bony hand and gripped the brass lever. He pushed it forward. The elevator didn't go down to 7. It went up. We passed 8. We passed 9, 10, 11, 12. The gilded, wall-papered walls of the residential floors flew by. We passed P, the penthouse. The walls of the shaft here were just raw brick, painted white. And then we kept going. The white-painted brick gave way to raw, dark, greasy brick. The clank got louder. The air got freezing cold. The elevator car groaned and slowed, settling with a heavy thud. The car was dark. The shaft was dark. The only light was a single, bare, fly-specked bulb hanging from a wire about 20 feet away. The smell. Oh God, the smell. It was overwhelming. It was rot. It was rust. It was that thick, coppery, blood smell. Abernathy pulled open the collapsible gate. The shriek clank of it echoed in the huge, dark space. "We're here," he whispered. I stepped out, my legs trembling. We weren't on a floor. We were on a narrow, steel mesh catwalk. It was a huge, cavernous room, the very top of the shaft. Below my feet, through the mesh, I could see the dark, empty void going all the way down. Above me, massive, greasy gears and thick, coiled steel cables snaked around a giant pulley wheel. This was the machinery Griggs was talking about. What is this place? I asked, my voice a tiny squeak. Why did you bring me here? Why do the others come here? Abernathy stepped out of the elevator car. He stood on the catwalk between me and the open gate. This, he said, and his voice was suddenly strong, not wheezing, not old. It was clear and cold. This is where the last attendant, Mr. Peake, got his arm caught. Back in 1953, he pointed a bony finger at the main gear mechanism. It was a terrible accident. It pulled him in. The gears, they're very old. They grind. They never found all of him. The machinery was hungry. What? What are you talking about? I said, backing away from him. The catwalk was narrow. I didn't have far to go. He hates being alone, Abernathy said, his voice echoing. He gets so lonely. And the Alistair, the building, it requires a toll, you see. The Alistair family, they know. They pay me to keep it quiet, to keep him fed. My breath hitched. Fed? What? That finance brochard. Abernathy smiled. Mr. Chad was a bonus. He was rude to me. But the others, the woman with the pearls, the couple from 7, they were just curious. Like you. I turned and scrambled for the elevator. You're insane. You're a murderer. He was fast. Impossibly fast for an old man. He stepped in front of the gate, blocking my path. He grabbed the brass control lever inside the car, from the outside of the gate. No, I screamed. He pushed the lever down. With a lurch, the elevator car, my only way out, started to descend. No, please, don't leave me. I shrieked, grabbing the iron latticework of the descending car. My fingers slipped. I was alone, trapped on the catwalk, 14 stories up, in the dark, greasy machinery room, with the abyss of the shaft below me. I looked down. Abernathy's pale, smiling face was looking up at me, shrinking as the car descended. "Oh, I'm not leaving you, Miss Sarah," his voice echoed up the shaft. "I'm just sending him company." I pounded on the locked metal door that led to, presumably, the roof. It was solid. Help me. Somebody. And then I heard it. From the other side of the giant, grinding gears. A sound. A wet, slithering sound. A soft groan. I froze. I peered into the shadows, past the giant pulley wheel. A shape was detaching itself from the darkness. It wasn't a man. Not anymore. It was a thing. A thing made of shadows and grease and wrongness. It was mangled, twisted, and it was crawling towards me, dragging itself across the catwalk. One of its arms was just a tangle of metal and something that dripped. It was Mr. Peak. I looked down the dark, empty shaft. I looked at the thing, crawling towards me, its groans getting louder. There was nowhere to go. I screamed, and the last thing I heard was the clank of the elevator starting to come back up. And that's all for tonight. Remember, the most terrifying monsters are the ones that look just like us. The ones who might even live right next door. If these stories serve as a good reminder to trust your instincts, then show your support and like and subscribe. Hitting that bell means you'll get a warning before the next nightmare begins. Sleep well, if you can.